You know, the global cocoa market has been on an absolutely wild ride. And I mean, a boom and bust so extreme it's changed pretty much everything, from how global trade works to, yes, the price of your favorite chocolate bar. So today, let's get into it and figure out what on earth happened.
So here's the big puzzle we're going to unravel. Cocoa prices, the actual raw ingredient for chocolate, they've completely collapsed. And yet, you go to the store and that candy bar costs just as much as it did, if not more. So, what gives?
To really get what's happening here, we have to dive into the story of the market itself. It's this crazy tale that one report perfectly described as both the best of times and the worst of times. We're talking about a period of volatility that has just completely reshaped the entire industry.
Okay, so let's rewind to 2024. At the start of the year, cocoa was trading around $4,200 a ton. A strong price, sure, but not totally out of the ordinary. But then, the market went parabolic. Prices just started to surge, doubling by the middle of the year and climbing into a full-blown market frenzy.
And then, by December 2024, bam! The price hit an unbelievable peak, $12,906 per ton. Just let that sink in for a second. That's a 300% surge in less than a year. I mean, we're talking about people who'd been in this business their entire lives, and they had never, ever seen anything like it.
So you got to be asking, why did this happen? Well, it wasn't just one thing. Oh no, it was the definition of a perfect storm, and it was all hitting West Africa, where most of our cocoa comes from. You had crop disease, crazy weather, aging trees from years of not enough investment, even illegal gold mining chewing up farmland. The supply was just crippled.
But what goes up must come down, right? And after that insane peak, the market took an equally insane nosedive. The bubble didn't just leak, it burst. I mean, spectacularly. The Great Cocoa Boom was officially over, and the Great Cocoa Crash was just getting started.
And the scale of this collapse, whoa, it was just as dramatic as the climb. From that peak of nearly $13,000, prices just plummeted. By April of 2026, they were all the way down to around $3,300 a ton. That's a 70% free fall. The market didn't just correct itself, nope, it cratered. Okay, so this brings us right back to the heart of our mystery. Because think about it, all those problems with the supply, the bad weather, the sick trees, they didn't just go away. The global harvest wasn't suddenly fixed. So what on earth could cause a price crash that big?
The answer is probably not what you're thinking. The price didn't crash because there was more cocoa. It crashed because the world started using less of it. It's a classic economic thing called demand destruction. Basically, prices got so ridiculously high that everyone, from the big companies all the way down to you and me, just changed how we buy and use it.
And we've got the proof right here. Look at this. This chart shows something called cocoa grinding. It's just a fancy term for the industry processing raw beans, and it's how we measure demand. And in the second quarter of 2025, it just fell off a cliff, down over 7% in Europe and a staggering drop of more than 16% in Asia. Manufacturers were slamming on the brakes hard.
And this right here is where we get our aha moment, because how the industry adapted to those insane prices, well, that's the real reason your chocolate bar isn't getting any cheaper. It's a story all about changing the recipe, changing the name, and basically redefining what we even think of as chocolate.
Get this. This quote right here basically spills the beans on the industry's big secret. Faced with these sky-high costs, major brands just started changing their recipes. They started taking so much cocoa out of their products that they literally couldn't call it chocolate anymore. I mean, legally. So here was the game plan. Step 1, reformulate. Just use less cocoa. Step 2, substitute. Swap out that expensive cocoa butter for cheaper stuff, like palm oil or shea oil. And finally, step 3, rebrand. Your milk chocolate bar suddenly becomes a chocolate-flavored confectionery. They found a way to make their stuff with less of the expensive ingredient.
And look, it wasn't just the big companies making these changes. We, the consumers, reacted too. I mean, you're faced with a candy bar that costs more and maybe doesn't taste quite the same. So what do? You buy less of it. And that's exactly what happened. Big players like Hershey and Mondelez saw some serious drops in how much chocolate people were buying.
And oh yeah, let's not forget the old classic shrinkflation. So if you've been thinking, hey, is my favorite candy bar getting smaller? You're not going crazy, it is. It was just another slick way for companies to cut costs without changing the price you see on the tag.
But, in the middle of all this financial chaos, there's a really tragic side to this story. For the actual farmers, the people growing the cocoa in West Africa, this historic price boom meant absolutely nothing. Because of the way their system works, they have to sell their crop way in advance, so they completely missed out on those record-high prices and were just left with bad harvests and low pay.
So what's the takeaway from all this? Where do we go from here? Well, it looks like this whole crazy period wasn't just a temporary blip on the radar. No, the evidence is pointing to a permanent shift in how the whole chocolate industry works, and what we find when we walk down the candy aisle.
Yeah, it really seems like this is the new normal. The big companies have figured it out. They know how to be profitable using less of the real stuff. They're pouring money into cocoa-free tech, and we've kind of gotten used to it, haven't we? Paying more for smaller bars. Even the way they buy cocoa has totally changed, from planning 18 months out to just 4 or 5 months now. It seems pretty clear these changes are here to stay.
And that leaves us with one last really big question to chew on. In a world where chocolate flavored is the new normal because it's cheap, what happens to real chocolate? As the industry settles into this new reality, the line between the real deal and the substitute, well, it might just be getting redrawn for good. Definitely something to think about next time you're in the candy aisle.